Hey, Matt Allen here. Welcome back to Tactical Bassin'. What I want to talk to you guys about today is sight fishing. I love sight fishing in the springtime. It's one of my favorite ways to catch them. When they get up in that shallow water and start to spawn, the bite can just be amazing. So I want to talk about the 5 types of baits that I throw when those fish start moving up and defending those nests. The first category, of course, is going to be a jig, and this is 2 of the 5. One is a standard jig, the other is a swim jig. We'll start with the standard jig. When I'm bed fishing, one thing that's really important to me is that my baits aren't too long. So I tend to stay away from like big curly tail worms, that sort of a thing, because it's too easy for the fish to just pick up the back of the bait, carry it off, and drop it. So I like the jig. Even though it's got a trailer, it's a nice compact profile, really easy to hook those fish. One thing that I really like to do with the jig is go a little bit heavier than I would normally go. So even though I'm fishing in shallow water where you would normally use a really light weight, I'll go up to a 3/8 or a 1/2 ounce. And that really allows me to shake that bait, get a lot of movement out of it. I can really be active without moving very far forward. So without leaving the bed, I can stay in that strike zone in the sweet spot a lot longer with that jig. The swim jig is kind of on the other end of the spectrum. Now, with color, you can do anything you want. You know, there's the whole debate between your bright, flashy colors versus your natural colors. And I really don't think that there's a right answer. You know, with bedfish, every fish is different. So you can't have preconceived notions. If you go down the bank throwing a chartreuse and white jig, you might miss a lot of opportunities for a fish that would eat a natural bait, and vice versa. So you want to have both ready to go. So on the swim jig, I'll throw like a shad profile, a white profile a lot, but I also like a bluegill profile or a bright profile like a chartreuse, something like that. With the swim jig, I'll fish it right on bottom, but it's a moving bait. I do actually swim it through the bed and just basically disturb the fish. Come through and try and get that fish to get aggravated and react to the bait. The swim jig is just an awesome, awesome bait to catch those fish. And then if they are getting aggravated, you can still stop that bait and fish it like a jig and stay in the strike zone. So that's a great option. Third is going to be a bluegill style bait. They come in all shapes and sizes, different colors, but these are 2 of my favorite. One's the Matt Lures bluegill. This is a little tiny one, but he's got a bunch of sizes. The other is a Bastrix. Just a straight tail Bastrix. I put them on a ball head or a shaky head, but I try to expose that hook. A bluegill profile, coast to coast, border to border, bass when they are spawning hate bluegill, and they do not want them in their beds. So they will defend with everything they have against a bluegill. So a small bluegill profile with good hook exposure. That is key. I don't like that Texas rig. I want an exposed hook when I bed fish. And the reason for that is, you know, you'll watch how different people fish. Not everybody's the same. Some people set the hook really hard. And a lot of the year I do too. I set really hard. But when I'm bed fishing, I don't. When I'm bed fishing, I think it's really important to not spook those fish. And a hard hook set can really scare them. And if they're just holding onto the back of the bait and you give it a good hard hook set, you can really blow your chances with that fish. So I like an exposed hook where I can, if I feel a bite, I can just kind of lean on it a little bit and see if they're there without slamming home a hook set. With an exposed hook, if they are there, that hook will start to catch. Then I know they're there and I can lean on it and get a good hook set. So number 3 is that bluegill profile. Natural, that bright chartreuse reactive color. Both will work in different times and places. Number 4, the tube. The tube is awesome. I mean, whether you're fishing for largemouth, spots, smallies, it doesn't matter. When they're on a bed, a tube will hammer them. Now, one problem I'll have with the tube is sometimes if the fish are really finicky, especially with the smallmouth, they'll grab onto the back of that tube. So what I'll do sometimes, I like a long profile. It looks good in the water, but if they are doing that, I'll trim those legs down, cut about half the legs off so that it's harder for them to hold on to that without getting the hook. But again, I rig it with that big exposed hook so it's easy to just catch that and then drive it home. And then last, I was up in the air on number 5. I like the drop shot and the Senko. So the drop shot definitely gets an honorable mention. I mean, it's hard to beat a drop shot just sitting in that bed, aggravating that fish. But there is so much to be said for a Senko when they're on a bed. Again, whether you're going with a natural color or a bright color, a white, a chartreuse, both will work at different times, at different places. So it's springtime out here, man. We've got the geese flying around. It's a warm day. But again, that bright color, sometimes they'll really react to that. But the Senko, whether wacky rigged or Texas rigged, is deadly. I'm not even sure why that works as well as it does in a bed, but they get so frustrated with that bait. So that's what I throw. Bed fishing is an awesome way to catch one of the biggest fish of your life. I think the most important thing is to be patient. I see a lot of guys that approach fish, they don't take the time to watch them. They just approach them, try to catch them, it doesn't work, and they leave. If you take the time to sit and watch that fish, watch how she's behaving, you can work through your search baits, or work from one end of this to the other and find which one of these baits she's going to react to, and then you focus in on that one bait. When you get to the next bed, no preconceived notions. Again, you start at one end, you work to the other until you find the right bait for that fish. Not every fish is catchable, but almost all of them are if you take your time, you're patient, and you look for the right bait that fish will respond to. I hope that helps. Keep an eye out. We're going to do some more underwater footage as the year goes along, but this is going to get you started on those sight fish. Good luck.